that I'm well aware of this. My guess is the one and only Randy McCharles. One of the people I actually do miss the most, kind of being here in this crazy time. So, how you been, man?
I've been doing good, and I miss you as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is, during this pandemic, I'm as close to you as I am to my next door neighbor. So right now, distance is pretty meaningless.
Yeah, no, it kind of is, and one. Well, okay, it is. It is for me. Like where I am right now, because all my family's here, so I am seeing my family because it's that's the one good thing. However, it's really awkward trying to meet people right now in a way I've never experienced in my life. Um, it's kind of one of those weird things we look at and go, I want to meet more people and explore this city, but I get the feeling that by the time by the time that opportunity is going to present itself here, I won't be here.
Yeah.
I'll be somewhere else. I'll be somewhere else. I don't think the lockdowns are going to last next year. I just think from a psychological standpoint, I think we've all come to we're I've been watching and we're slowly hitting a breaking point there. I think by next summer, I don't know how they're going to be able to keep them up. I just don't see it. But
I'm hopeful there's a vaccine before then.
I even I just think we've come to. I just think there's I think let's just say it psychologically, mentally. I think we've just come to a point, even whether we have a vaccine or we don't. I think there's going to have to be some kind of give somewhere there, because if not, I've been noticing it here. People's reactions are becoming more and more extreme. I don't see it maintaining beyond a certain. I think there's going to come a point where, regardless of where we're at of the vaccine, regardless of where we're at, there's going to be a bit of a, we can't do this anymore like this. Something. I mean, that isn't to say that there won't still be precautions going on, but I do think that the lockdown concept is going to pretty much lose its charm by the spring.
Well, this is why we have these cycles. The word escapes me. We had the first peak in the spring, and now we're having a second peak because, again, people get cabin fever. They got to get back to what they usually do. There will be a third one, because historically there is. We'll just, like, for me, I'm just playing it by ear. So I've been working in this room where I'm at right now for the past 5 years. And so the pandemic has not affected me as much as it has most people.
Yeah, well, in a weird way, like I have my mom. I find with my rule is Facebook. That's kind of like, I don't feel it so much when I'm off social media, because I'm still, for the most part, this was going to be my year. What I've been doing, yeah. Right? I would have probably gotten more haircuts, but besides that, I right. I would have. Besides that, I think this was pretty much like, I was always planning on going freelance this year. I was always planning on trying a year of this, regardless of what's happening. In some ways, I think this was actually still, in spite of everything that went on, this was still a good time to do that, right? Because I mean, this is an opportunity to change. Is how I kind of how I approach this. The world's gone mad. You might as well change with it. If it doesn't work out, it's not like I've lost anything really.
No.
Right? And if it does work out, I've done something really cool and different, and I definitely have discovered and learned some new wonderful things this year so far. So.
Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Don't tell anybody.
Okay. Well, your secret's safe here.
Yeah, the secret is, I have not had a haircut in 10 years. Like I say, this pandemic affects me less than most people.
Mm-hmm.
I work at home. The only thing I really miss is that I do try to get together with people some evenings and weekends. I have a friend who lives literally 30 seconds walk from my front door, and I haven't seen him in person since March. And usually we'd see each other at least once a month. So that's the only way I'm really impacted by this. Yeah,
Okay.
I do miss those social events. But like my writers group is online. We do Zoom meetings. The When Words Collide festival that I volunteer for, we do online Zoom meetings. So it's not like we're totally cut off. And of course, I'm online here with you right now. So
Absolutely. No. We do we do live like, if this had been a different kind of pandemic, like this would have. I'm not sure what would have happened. Actually, I don't think this would. I think this definitely wouldn't have worked at all if it had been a normal one. But yeah, the fact is, I can communicate. Like, I can communicate literally anywhere in the world, and I have been. Like, last night I was up till like Jesus. I did an interview for a show in Greece, and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. But an opportunity that would not have presented itself.
Was that with Jonas Saul?
No, nah. I haven't talked to Jonas. I've talked to Jonas very briefly at the beginning of the pandemic, and I haven't really talked to him since. He's been doing his thing. I've been watching him. He's done. Yeah, he's still beating me on releases by like one or two. So I got to catch him. I did two this year so far, so I got one more to do, and I want to try to get one out Christmas Day. I'm trying. We'll see. Yeah. This me scaling up the podcast like this has become a much more. It's a lot of fun.
No, I imagine this is taking up a ton of your time.
Oh yeah, no, it is. It is. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like yesterday, I did like a bonus one, Richard Pereira. That was like the most fun I've ever had on a podcast this year.
Excellent.
He drew like, his drawing. He drew like the Mad Max, like that. That was awesome, and I love that. That first 10 minutes is, I think, the best interview I've ever done. So I mean, I've had those opportunities, and people seem to like it. Like, I'm booked solid till February.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. It's happening, and it happened really quick. Like I don't know. Like I don't know if you like how long do you freelance much? I'm just asking that because I actually have never asked you this.
I don't put it out there, but I have been asked on occasion, and I have.
Yeah.
But I do have my own projects to keep me busy, so I'm not actually out there looking to freelance.
No, I get it. Because so for me, this is what I've learned in doing this this year. This took me like 6 months to figure this out. Find a niche and focus on it, and it never really dawned on me. I kind of already do. So let's just figure out, like, I'm already ahead of the game that way. So now the trick is now to push what you do best and see how much people respond to it. And so I kind of kicked myself in the butt because it took me 7 months to figure this out. But once I figured it out, it's just like, oh, good. Like that's it. Like for you, like when you do freelancing, is there anything specific you do?
No, like I say, if someone asks me to do something and I can fit it in, then I do it. I go, this sounds like fun. Okay. You don't want to get in a rut, right? You do want to have some diversity in your life.
Oh, absolutely. No. You want to break the monotony of it. So
in fact, my whole Peter Galloway series was because I got invited to contribute to an anthology.
Oh.
I was writing speculative fiction, and I got invited to contribute to a crime anthology. And I go, oh, this is fun and challenging and something different. So I did that, and after that, I wrote 5 novels. So.
At one.
Nice to go out and try new things, right?
Well, yeah, you have to. We talked about this last time you were on the show. I think mystery does suit you because mysteries are very structured, but there's a certain structure to them, and it's, I think, an easy one to fall into once you have your own formula for it figured out. And you seem like the kind of guy that would have a lot of fun doing it. So how was it? Was it as fun as I figured it would be for you?
Oh yes. So what's interesting is I got into writing speculative fiction years ago because it requires less research. You're going to do your own world building. You're going to create your own magic system. It all comes from within. You don't do as much external research as you do in other genres.
Very.
And so when I went to the
So anyway, Highland Fighter, he says hello. He's watching the stream right now. He's saying hi to you.
Oh, hey, hello back again.
Yeah.
Glad you could join us.
Yeah. So, but no. So, would you do it again? I mean, the fact that you did the whole approach you went with that.
Well, again, you don't plan on this stuff, so sure I'd do it again because I'd fall into it.
Yeah. I mean, but they like the whole like I'll take 5 novels, I'll release them at once, do it again, and because it's like I said, it seemed like it was a fun little experiment for you, and I think you found something you enjoyed. So are you going to go back into that world, or are you going to do something different?
Sure. Well, this is fun. So when I started the Peter Galloway series, I was working on book 1 of a different series. And I decided, I'm going to put that aside and work on this. So I still got to go back to that at some point. But I've also started putting together another crime series set in the U.S. Peter Galloway is a Canadian private eye. Set in Canada, there's some disadvantages market-wise to doing that.
Yeah, okay.
And so planning out part of an American private, well, it's actually a cop series. It's a Chicago cop who's in hiding, waiting to come up to a trial where he's a witness against a monster. And so he's supposed to be keeping a low profile, but ends up helping the local police. That's the new series that I will work on eventually. Right now, I'm just kind of making notes and writing some scenes and all that. But I'm also planning out another 5 books for Peter Galloway. I've written the first part of book 6 already.
So you're officially a mystery writer now, like full time.
Well, no, because I'm also writing a speculative series for Taiki. December 15th is book 1 of that series.
Congratulations.
That's the Connecticut Gumshoe and King Arthur's Court. And like much of my speculative fiction, yes, it's strong on the mystery element.
Yes. It just seems like you thoroughly enjoyed the mystery genre, and it doesn't surprise me that it crossed over into your speculative writing. Like I said, there's a formula, and it's again they're fun. Especially they're you have a style that I think caters to it very well, and like I said, I haven't gotten your Peter Galloways yet, unfortunately. I all the chaos of the last year. It's just kind of been like, it's kind of been like, because I started like this time last year I was in Vancouver. Still can't believe it. This time last year I was in Vancouver. It feels like a lifetime ago. But hopefully next year I'll be able to get my stuff out of Calgary, and I'll be able to finally get back to something there. But did you enjoy being an independent public, like writing for yourself, publishing?
Well, Peter Galloway isn't my first self-published material. I have published 2 other novels that were not easily pigeonholed. The first one was Capone, Chicago. Again, crime, right? Speculative crime. Okay. I had been writing, contributing to a serial anthology. That anthology kind of ended before it was supposed to end. And so the material all came back. So I gave it a new setting and finished it and published it as a novel. So that's kind of a alternate dimension. What would happen if Al Capone actually became the mayor of Chicago?
Yes.
He wanted to control it all, and he did as a criminal. What if he had to do it legitimately?
Yeah.
And so that was that novel. And again, really hard to sell because half the material had been published before in a different setting.
Which, that makes that a lot harder.
Well, I thought, instead of trying to convince a publisher to purchase this, I'll just self-publish it, which I did. And that was my first experience self-publishing, and it went quite well.
Yeah.
I had another novel, The Day of the Demon, which is actually later drafts of a first draft written by a friend. So
Oh wow.
a friend of mine really, really loves to write first drafts, but he does not revise. So he tries to sell his first drafts. um, that one, of course, did not sell.
No.
And it had more problems beyond being a first draft. It was actually an exercise in theology. It was one guy alone in the wilderness contemplating things. Not too exciting. But I liked a lot of the elements of the story. So he said I could do what I wanted with it. So I just put it aside and rewrote the whole thing with some of his characters, a different take on the setting, and made it a story about the afterlife with bad people and aliens who, in the afterlife, possess people, susceptible people. And whereas other good people and aliens in the afterlife try to help the living. Um, and so the Day of the Demon is kind of the battle between good and evil, incorporating the living and the dead.
Yeah.
And again, because I did not write the first draft of that story, another hard sell to a publisher. So I self-published it.
Well, that would be even, I think, a hard sell for me. Like, here's your first drafts. Like, okay, it's like, I mean, there's definitely, it sounds like basically you took the elements you really, really enjoyed.
Oh yeah, like I
And
said, I did not even look at the manuscript. I had read it for him a couple of years earlier, gave him some feedback.
yeah,
But he just cannot bring himself to rewrite. He does his first drafts on a typewriter, which makes rewrites even more difficult.
but see, that's cool. But I think like for me, like I tend to I handwrite my usually most of my first drafts, right? So I handwrite most of them, and the thing about that is I love what it does when I actually type them up, because it's almost like my first draft's a 1.5. It's not by any stretch perfect after I put it on the computer, but I've already gone through a slight bit of revision already when I've done it once. And then so it's almost like I did two drafts at once. And actually although my revision process has gotten a little more sophisticated, the Cloud Diver taught me an awful lot about how novels work. That I'm like, the next one, like I know the next novel, when I release my full next novel, is going to feel a lot different. I looked at the really, really good stuff and figured out what I did well, what I didn't do well, and I just noticed like your quality jumps from like your first book all the way like to like, even from 1 to 2 is a huge jump. I can only imagine what it gets to like when you get to like you're what, 9 or 10 books now?
Yeah, well, yeah, eight or nine books, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're almost at 10, right? I thought so. It's like because Necromancer's Candle, Much Ado About Macbeth, and then your Peter Galloways are 5. Yeah, you've done you've done 9 books. Like this
So
year.
I've also got 2 unpublished novels done. So I make 11 actually, because they're going to Taiki, and Taiki's releasing them on their schedule. So
yeah, okay. So so there you go, right? So you almost got a dozen novels. So I mean, obviously doing different genres. I think there's different evolutions in your writing. But what's the biggest change you've noticed with when you do stuff?
well, actually, everything I write is character driven, and so the genre is not that significant. You write your first draft by hand. So the first draft is your creative process. You're just kind of inventing stuff. Do whatever you need to do to be inventive, creative. You find handwriting works for you.
Yes.
And that's why you do it. You feel you're more creative that way than if you did the first draft on a computer. And that's great. You do what works for you. That's for everybody. It's going to be true.
Yeah.
I don't start writing until I know who the main character is. If I know who the main character is and I start writing, it doesn't matter if it's science fiction, fantasy, crime, it doesn't matter what it is. I know who that character is. I tell their story, and it flows. The Peter Galloway series is written in first person. My Connecticut Gumshoe series is written in third person. I have no problem doing either one. I kind of did it that way to make sure I wasn't writing the same character in both series.
Well, yeah. Well, it's easy to fall into a trap of, okay, I have a formula that works, and I'm not going to change it very much. I think I like one of the things I always worry. I'm not really worried about yet because I'm only at 5 books right now. Right? Is that I still have lots of new things to say, but when I get when I get to 10, it's gonna be like, okay, my ideas, my base core of ideas I originally came up with, they're gonna be all like kind of on the table, and so I'm gonna have to figure out. I don't want to be. I love Ray Bradbury as a writer. Like, he's a brilliant writer, but Ray Bradbury at the beginning of his life and Ray Bradbury at the end of his life, Ray had a lot more passion in what he was saying at the beginning. It's not that he never lost his passion, but when you get to the point you're saying the same things or doing the same things, the later books just don't say the same thing. You need to have a fresh voice or perspective or feeling you're trying to capture to the audience.
Yeah, and again, I deal with that by writing the character's story. Like right now, I've got 5 Peter Galloway novels and a short story. His character develops over that time span. At the end of book 5, he is not the same person he is at the beginning of book 1. I'm trying to make sure that the actual crime story in each novel is different enough that I get to look at different sides of Galloway in them. In one novel, it's a whodunit, who killed this person and why. The next one, he's trying to find a runaway teen. Another one, he witnesses an accident and figures it's not an accident. There's drug smuggling. Book 6 is actually going to be a treasure hunt for the Lost Lemon Mine.
Nice.
In southern Alberta. So you just got to come at it at different angles and make sure that the story is fresh and not a different one you've already done recycled. Make sure you can look at your characters at different angles. And once you're done, you go find a different character. If you're recycling yourself, and you're done.
Yeah, well, that's it, right? I mean, unless you fall into the trap where you become very successful in a book series, and then that's going to be very hard to walk away from, because it's like it happens. Like, I look at like Terry Brooks. I love Terry Brooks, but he's writing Shinhara until he dies, because right, because I'm not sure it isn't, like, again, he's a much better writer now than he was when he started, but there's a point, I think his earlier stuff, there's a lot more raw emotion in it than his later stuff, right? Because I think the author can't escape the, oh man, I gotta do this again.
Well, right? This is funny because I've talked to Terry.
Yeah.
I loved The Sword of Shannara, his first book. I mean, I was I don't know, maybe 14 or something when I read it. And I was engrossed. It just sucked me right in. Fantastic story. I mean, I lived the novel. It wasn't until later when I went back and looked and discovered each paragraph was a page and a half long.
Yes.
But I talked to Terry, and what happened was, the Lord of the Rings had just made it big. All the publishers wanted the Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Terry's agent said, "You should go write Lord of the Rings." He was writing legal novels at the time, and you got to do it fast, because the first authors to get there are the ones that are going to sell their books, and then it'll be saturated, and they won't be looking for those anymore. So he wrote The Sword of Shannara in a hurry, expecting it to be wildly edited, because that's what his earlier work was. His publisher would edit the heck out of whatever he sent in. So he sent in the Sword of Shannara, and then it appeared on the shelves. And so he then had to teach himself how to edit.
Yeah.
He said, my publisher's not going to edit. They want more books in this series as fast as I can give them to them, and they're not going to edit them. So
that's an awkward problem. That's not what I expected to hear there.
No. So if you look at the first 3 books, the paragraphs get shorter as he goes.
Well, yeah. Well, because I like when I read like a more modern Shannara, he's a much better storyteller. Like in terms of his like techniques and stuff like that, he is so much better than he was when he started.
But he's taking more time as well.
Yeah.
He's doing a book a year now, which is kind of has been the standard for a long time.
Yeah.
When he did the Shannara books, he had to whip those first ones off as quickly as
I never considered that. I certainly that they never edited his work never would have occurred to me. That actually sounds horrifying. It's like, wait, what?
I think he got it proofread, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it was probably the typesetter who proofread it.
Yeah, and oh god, that's like, I'm proud this is out there, and I'm glad it made my living, but that would make me cringe. That would just make me cringe.
But again, that said, I have no problems with that first book, or the second, or the third.
Oh no,
those stories sucked me in, and what you want as an author is for people to not see the words on the page.
Yes,
you want the reader to read the book and experience it, and not worry about the page layout.
No. I totally agree. Like that's like the goal is so. And again, I've been learning this as I go. Like this is the big difference I think between my first novel and it's going to be my next few novels. Is I'm looking a lot more. I'm going after my readers' souls. Like I'm trying to get them to feel and invest in these stories a lot more. I'm very proud of the Cloud Diver, but again. Now that I've done it, I can look back and go, okay, I did this well, and I'm doing stuff that no one's thinking about, aka giant unicorns with white rainbows and giant cupcakes. But you know what? I have to also look at the fact too that I want you to laugh, but I also kind of want you to feel, because if you're invested in the characters in there, you'll come back. And so the next book I'm doing isn't Cloud Diver 2, it's something else. It's basically taking what I've learned from Cloud Diver and applying it into something that's another series I can jump into and work on forever and ever and ever. But it's also just because I'm once I figure that one out in terms of like how much better I get, then I go back to Cloud Diver and go, okay, I think I can tell this story better now. Let's see if I really know what the heck I'm doing, or if
I enjoyed the Cloud Diver.
Yeah.
I would think you would actually have to write a fair amount before you could go back and improve it, because it's already freaking good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, there are some little things that I look at, just some little techniques. I'm like my next book is one called Corys, Parallel Universe Dragon Slaying. I took the Knights of the Round and I corrupted them. I made them like they're my version of the crime syndicate of the Justice League, right? I've twisted them all, and my main character is someone that used to work for them and is now it's Parker meets Quantum Leap. I'm having a lot of fun with this. But there are just little things I've done that I think have made the story better without so we'll see. Like we'll see when it comes out, like if I know what I'm doing, or do you ever really know what you're doing this? I should ask.
So it's a balancing act between plotting and pantsing. Is like I say, when I start a story, I know the main character, I know how it begins, and I usually don't change the beginning. Sometimes I have to move it, but I usually don't change it. And I usually know how it ends, but everything else that happens, I pretty much make it up as the story progresses. Because again, I like characters who behave realistically. I want them to react to events the way they really, really would, not ways that just kind of fit the plot.
Yeah,
And
no, yeah,
so I do have to. I don't know too much about the plot points along the way because I don't really know the character well enough to plan that much. And as the story progresses, I go, okay, I'm going to throw this at my character. How are they going to respond? And they decide where they go next.
So for me, so here's something I've learned. This is the one thing I have learned. You can actually make the character react any way they want to. The trick of the matter is, what I find is it has to be believable into the world they're into, right? You can make someone buy anything, but the trick is, right? Is it plausible within the world you've created, right? Is it believable? If it's not, I mean, you like I said, I wrote a story of unicorns that fart rainbows and robots and all that other wonderful fun stuff, right? His reactions are completely in line with the world. But I think one of my early editors said, you know what? I completely bought Dragon Flu. I bought it. I didn't even question it, and it was like perfect, right? It's the stuff. I'm credibility is very important. That's the one thing I've actually learned about your stories. You've got to be honest with your reader, and not have the convenient plot device that makes no or Deus Ex Machina like that. You get like one of those, and that's it. The entire series.
Well, for me, my biggest problem reading other people's material is character motivation. When when they do something that's like, oh no, that character would do that. That's what bothers me the most is they have to do what they would do, and if they do something different, I stop reading and go, why would they do that? I mean, this makes no sense. Uh, the author has painted the character this way, and now they're doing something they wouldn't do. And I see that over and over again. And when I actually reading someone else's work, that's the number one thing I look for.
Oh, okay.
As I go, well, no, this character wouldn't do that. This character is totally ethical, right? You want to force that character to do something unethical. That's what you want to do. You want them to do something unethical. And when you do it, the reader has to believe it.
Yes.
That, okay, here's my ethical character. Here's this ethical guy doing something unethical. But yes, I believe he would actually do that.
Yeah.
It's when they just come along and, here's some money, I'm going to take it, and you don't believe they do it. That's the problem. That's a problem for me to read. And you see more and more of it on film, movies and television.
Yeah.
It's harder to get away with that in a written story, and I call authors on it every time I see it.
Well, actually, I think it's getting harder to do not see. I figured I just did my article for the anime network. I wrote my article on it, and one of the things I recognize North American in terms of television especially, movies is a different weird problem, but television in particular, it's usually because television in North America does not have a designed Act 3, right? So what tends to happen in like the reason like Game of Thrones was such a piss off at the very end of the series, right? It was.
I haven't seen the last season, so no spoilers, please.
I'm not gonna. Okay. We'll just focus on believability of characters, and I'm not going to spoil a damn thing. You will be mad, and you won't be mad at what happens. You're going to be mad they went that way based on what they gave you prior to it. Because when they started this series, Martin hadn't finished it, and when they were getting to the end of the series, Martin hadn't finished it. So they didn't. I mean, they had some idea what Act 3 was probably going to be like. They probably were like, "Hey, George, we need to wrap this up. Can you give us some ideas where you're going with this so we can wrap this up?" But the fact is, so you look at that, or another one, How I Met Your Mother. That show would have been a great 3 or 4 season show. It had that much material that was really strong. They stretched it out because it was a hit, a really big hit that people didn't expect. And you could tell by the time they got to season 6, they were like, I don't know what else to say at this point in time. Right when they just should have gone into Act 3, and that's a big problem with television and even like comic books here in North America is there's no set Act 3 in most things, and because there's not, what tends to happen is you lose your character's credibility somewhere because normally there's an evolution point or a conflict resolution somewhere in the story, and now you don't have it because you're trying to keep it going and going and going and going, right? And authors fall into this trap, I think, in books because our entertainment falls into this trap all the time.
Well, I think in most series, it's because the publisher has told the author what they want.
That too. Oh no, that's absolutely too.
The author goes, I'm writing a trilogy here, and the publisher says, no, we need a book 4, 5, and 6. And the author's going, well, that's not what I've set up.
That's awkward.
Douglas Adams, I love Douglas Adams. So he wrote the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and then a sequel, and then a third book, and he did not want to write a fourth book, so he killed everybody. He knew his publisher was going to want a fourth book. He did not want to write a fourth book, so he killed everybody. They eventually made him write a fourth book anyway.
Yes, they did. They did.
He tried to get out of it.
It's like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this way. That's not, figure it out, right? And it's like, no, figure it out. You're doing it. It's like, okay. But no, like it's a very common thing. Like when you become a hit, like every story, like okay, so Cloud Diver for me, I have 4 stories, right? And I've told one of them. I got 3 more.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of stories in my head that I could go to, right? I always have those in the back of my head. It's like, if this becomes a real hit, I'm gonna have to tell more stories in this world. Right. So I have that in the back. It's almost like it's a pre-plan. It's like I have 4 really strong stories and kind of 3, if we get there, cool stories, right? But
again, when you actually go put those other 3 stories on paper, you will generate ideas for more stories.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Always. But there's a point. I think there's a point with all characters. We say everything we can honestly say about these characters, and for our own sanity, we have to do something else because it's just like I've said everything I need to say. Like one of my favorites is like I love what Stephen King did with Dark Tower. I love the Dark Tower series. He still he did Wind Through the Keyhole, which was a nice little for fans like me. Hey, here's a Dark Tower story for you.
Yeah.
But the main story is told. So it's like I told my big story. I got no problem giving you a fun little side story somewhere else along the way that just for you guys, because I know you love. I think serving an audience that's a really interesting balance. Like you should serve your audience to some degree, but you can't. There's a real genuine trap of being stuck in the same place forever. I mean, again, from a paycheck standpoint, it's great, but I think every author needs to expand their creativity as time goes on, more and more so.
I know what a lot of authors have done if they've done a series, and they've kind of explored their protagonists as much as they can, and their audience or their publisher want more books. They then go with a secondary character and say, okay, I've told my protagonist story. Here's a really cool secondary character who's been in the books a lot. I'm going to now write their story. That works. Because people, get this. You have the same flavor, right? You got I know the setting. The protagonist is still there. It's just they're now a secondary character instead of a primary character, and it gives more material for the writer to work with.
Yes. No, it does. That's one way. There's other ways too. I think my favorite one is what L.A. Mossa Jr. does in Recluse. He'll do 1 or 2 stories with a character, and then he just moves on. Yeah. Right. So you can kind of pick and choose. Or Valdemir by Mercedes Lackey does that very well too. She'll do a trilogy of the character, and then she'll move on to something else. So do you have an ending in mind for Peter Galloway, or can you do that forever?
Um, I don't. The first 5 books take place in a period of like 9 months, 8, 9 months. Not a lot of time has gone on. The second 5 books is going to be the same. It's going to be like an 8, 9 month period. And so the characters are only going to be like a year and a half, 2 years older at the end of 10 books. Still a lot of room. The first 5 books have a character arc for Peter Galloway. He has a problem at the beginning of book 1 that is resolved at the end of book 5. His partner and romantic interest, Angela Ford, also has a 5-book story arc, or in their problem at the beginning, resolution at the end of book 5. For the second 5 books, they are each going to have another 5-book story arc. So at the end of 10 books, I'll have those resolved. But there's other story arcs for them. I mean, they're still young. Angela Ford has children. They play more prominently in the second 5 books, maybe, and if not, they'll play more prominently in books 11 through 15.
But you got this plan. This is your master, like not your mastery. Like this is the work you're comfortable doing for a long time.
But the characters are complex enough that there's a lot of room. There's a lot of places to go. But I've got other projects too. There's other things going on. This new series with Taiki. Book 1 comes out this month. Book 2 comes out next August, and I've started a 3rd book. So I've got that to work on as well, and then I've got these other 2 series I want to get to eventually. So we'll see. I've got to weigh what I want to write versus what's expedient to write, and get material out there as quick as I can. This year I'm publishing 3 novels. Last year I published 3 novels. I'm hoping to do 3 novels again next year, although I don't have as much raw material to work with. I've got to write a lot of first drafts in the very near future. So
no, I get that. No, I'm in that boat right now myself. But okay, so I gotta ask this because you talk about expediency, right? Expedient writing. Like, what do you struggle writing with at this point? Like, where do you find yourself kind of in the uncomfortable waters?
I don't struggle.
That's fair.
I think really my biggest problem is trying to balance my life to give me more writing time. Is I've got other stuff that I'm doing.
Okay.
And I need to, over the next year, for sure, I've got to look at how am I going to spend more time writing and less time doing these other things. So there's that. I guess that's the actual writing goes. I don't have a problem. I have a method. I'm really interested in all my material. I do not believe in writer's block. I don't block.
No, I don't either. Actually, for me, it's about finding time, right? Because for me, I have kind of like I creatively wander, as anybody can see if they ever read any of my stuff. Like I'm teaching myself how to draw because I want to do comic books, and I thought it'd be great if I could actually draw myself because one, it saves me a lot of money, but 2, I always kind of wanted.
No, but if you the comic books, you don't hire an illustrator, you partner up with an illustrator.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you try, but the reality of the situation, okay, comics in particular, right? Going in as a writer, the illustrators do the majority of the heavy lifting. I'm not saying a writer doesn't do. When I always say that to illustrators, all writers do stuff. I'm not saying they don't, but you're the guys. If you're doing the comic work, they're on average, 1 issue takes 4 to 6 weeks to do. So I can write a script in 3 days. That's it. That's if I'm going slow, right?
I would put that in the terms that the script and the art are equally important.
Yes.
If either of them fail, the whole thing fails.
Yeah.
However, for most illustrators, at least, it takes longer.
Oh no, it takes it's a lot more work, right? It's like in terms of lifting, you're like the illustrator is the storyteller, right? So they're the ones that and there's a storytelling language to illustration, and I'm like I said, I'm going to be playing with it for a little while because I have like my story is I have a dragon that criticizes his artist for drawing poorly, and I figure that's a really good way to break in because it gives me the excuse to be bad as a technically bad, but still tell a story. And you can have a lot of fun making fun of yourself. It's surprisingly easy to do, and the thing of this, so I'm teaching myself that. But what I found, and I don't know if you do anything besides writing in terms of art. Oh, actually, I know you do. You sing and you do other things as well. I have found that the more artistic disciplines I get into, the better my storytelling becomes. I discover things about storytelling I never considered otherwise.
Yeah.
Same for you.
So I love singing, but I haven't sung since March. Once upon a time, I was teaching myself guitar, but too many other things got in the way, so that ended. It'd be really nice to just have all the time in the world to do everything you want to do.
You do and you don't. I think the biggest thing I've learned in this time is that time is a very precious commodity, but the more of it you seem to have, the less inclined you are to do stuff. I find
sure, that makes sense though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The more you have of any commodity, the worse you manage it.
It's true. No, it's true. There's less urgency, right? There's less urgency with it, right? If I only have $5, that $5 means a lot more to me than someone that has 500 because it's like, because $5 is no big deal. It's like, no, it's kind of a big deal because it's all I got. But then the guy with 500 is like, yeah, here's $5. Here, done. No big deal. It doesn't even notice it, right? So, but I found the biggest challenge for me in this time, and this again going back to my own thing. Maybe this was this way when you started as well. Is the discipline of respecting the urgency of the time to take your job seriously. Like you're a writer. You're a full-time writer, and you take that seriously day in and day out. And I think why a lot of freelancers fail, it's hard to treat it as a job, especially in the beginning when you're not seeing the rewards for it, right? That you do once you really start getting rolling.
Yeah, the other problem is my boss is me.
Yeah.
So I don't really have deadlines. I don't have a boss telling me to get my act together. I have to be self-disciplined, and I know I could always be more, better self-disciplined than I am. Like I say, that's my challenge, is to actually be as productive as I want to be and need to be.
Yeah.
Because there's still so many other things I like to do. So.
Well, yeah. You're a human being. We all are there. So I'm going to ask you a fun question. What are the odds, do you think, that When Worlds Collide is going to be, we're going to be able to get together again next year? What do you think the odds are?
I would say poor.
Yeah.
Just based on history, looking back at the last 6 months. However, when things change, they'll change quickly. Like I say, there'll either be a vaccine broadly distributed, or governments will get tired of the way things are and do a stronger crackdown. At some point, something's going to happen to end the pandemic. No idea when.
Yes.
Really not this month.
Oh no, it won't be this. No, this month. I figure nothing's going to really move again until spring. Like springtime, people are going to be looking at this a little differently again when we get to that far in. But the one advantage to wintertime in Canada is no one really wants to go outside anyway.
Well, except they will. They will go to bars and casinos and like.
Well, your positions in Alberta are strange.
Yes, Alberta is not a problem.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't understand why you can go to a casino but you can't get together in this. Like it just makes no sense to me at all.
I'll put it in one sentence.
Hmm.
Um, the only restrictions are places where the government can't make money.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to have dinner with a family member who doesn't live under the same roof, because the government does not lose revenue by putting that restriction in. However, if you can't go to a bar, you can't go to a casino, they're losing revenue. So they are reluctant to put those restrictions in place. Right now, if you want to get married in a casino, because you cannot get married in a church. You can get married in a casino.
or get married in a classroom. One of the.
Well, the classrooms are tricky.
Yeah.
The classrooms are because the government's based on business people don't want their kids at home.
Yes.
Which is why the government is under pressure to keep the schools open. If you got reported for congregating in a school when you're not the kids,
yeah,
I think it fall under illegal gatherings.
Well. See, I see. To me, I think that's the biggest. I think the biggest reason why there's so much resistance. I mean, the fact that you're willing to put your kids into a school kind of undercuts just like, if this is serious, why are we even doing this, right? Because it completely kills the credibility of everything going on.
It's all political, 100%. In Alberta, it's 100% politics.
Yes.
100%. Health considerations are in last place in this province. Sad.
Man, it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm kind of glad I don't live there anymore. I miss you guys, but I'm kind of glad. Like, I think I left right before things. You guys were going down a weird path anyway, regardless of this. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall there too. And it's just like, he just got there faster because of this. That's all. It's like, he got farther, I think, than he ever imagined he would, because like, oh my God, this opportunity just kind of fell into his lap. So I wish you guys luck on that one. That's
yeah. Well, like I say, it's not just the pandemic. It's everything. The direction the government is taking the province is not good for everyday people.
No.
So right now, I am prepared to move to British Columbia.
Okay.
We're going there this winter for a couple of months, looking for accommodations that we could move to. Because the only advantage I have in Alberta right now is I have really good accommodations. The Alberta government wants to take over the pension fund. They took over the teachers' pension fund, but they want everybody's pension fund.
Mm-hmm.
If that were to happen, I would not want to be paying taxes in Alberta. So,
I get it.
Pension, I would lose the province. Yeah.
I get it. They I always knew that the pensions would. I probably would not see a pension. Like I recognize the fact that by the time I got there, it wouldn't be there, or if it was there, it would be a lot smaller than portions than it was previously. I've always kind of recognized that this was coming, but and I think even wherever you go, inevitably this is a problem that's going to peek its head out one way or the other.
It's a risk everywhere, but right now, that is one of the government's goals over the next 2 years, is to acquire the Canada Pension Fund, so they can enhance their corporate welfare with it.
Yes.
That's what they did with the teachers fund. They grabbed the teachers pension fund and gave it to oil companies, and those oil companies are now shutting down. So
yeah,
not a good situation.
No, you're no, like I said, I feel like I left Alberta at the right time. It's kind of what I feel like, is I kind of left right.
Well, I'm hoping to be here for the next election so that I can not vote for the current government.
Yep.
But the trigger for me between now and then would be losing my pension.
Yeah. Oh no, and I get it. Like, and you'd have to, and you're preparing just in case. Where would you go in BC? Like, if you had to go.
My family lives in Parksville on
Okay.
Vancouver. Um, and so that's where we're staying for the next couple of months. We've gone there the last couple of winters for a couple of months. And that's where we're going to look for accommodations. Right after Christmas, we're going to be, well, after New Year's, I guess. We're going to be checking out what's suitable and available down the road. Like, I want to get on waiting lists
Yes.
they don't have, like, I live in a co-op right now. And they don't have those on Vancouver Island,
No, they don't.
which is unfortunate. But there are some nonprofit housing that is similar to co-op, and we're going to be looking at those, seeing what we like, what they cost, and get on waiting lists where it makes sense.
Yeah, I like. There is a shot. Like, I when this is March next year, when this is all kind of run its course, or at least run its first year, this is when my housing goes up. All right, and that's in my head. It's like it may not be up by that time, but I kind of already have a deadline in my head of if by March this is not quite going where I think it's going. Right, it's like, okay, it's time to get back and do some other things. Whether I go back to school, whether I do, like, I'm still doing this, but I'm going to pivot. It's like, okay, let's do something else to keep the income coming in. Right, in the short term at least. So I mean, for me, it'd be like, well, I like Kelowna. I could probably find something in Kelowna. I mean, I do have one advantage: I can go anywhere I want to go. Right.
Kelowna is gorgeous. I love Kelowna.
Oh no, Kelowna's awesome. I enjoyed it last time I was there. I already got a pretty good core group of friends out there already. So, and like I said, I'm not like, after, like, for me, Vancouver, I love visiting Vancouver. Vancouver's a beautiful city. But I don't think I want to live there.
It's one of the most expensive locations in Canada.
Yeah, it wasn't even it wasn't the expense. Actually, I was fine. I was fine there, right? That way. It was just the vibe there was very, like, I lived in Toronto, and I upon reflection, I prefer Toronto to Vancouver in terms of just the feel of the city.
Okay.
And yeah,
I like central Toronto.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of the ethnic neighborhoods.
Yes.
Little Italy, and you can go to a neighborhood and feel like you're almost in another country. I really love that experience. I really appreciate people holding on to their parents, grandparents' culture, and showing it off. I really enjoy that. So that's the one thing I really love about Toronto, is the diversity there, and that it's in neighborhoods.
No. Toronto is a really interesting place that way. Toronto's expensive too, but I found that it felt better. Like, I like visiting Vancouver. There are things about Vancouver I really like. I also feel like I couldn't really give it a fair shake, considering everything that kind of happened when things did. But the impression I got, just the general impression I got there, was that it was like, it's a great place to visit.
Yeah.
But I like the island. I like the island. I like Kelowna. I like everything around it. I think is better suited for living. Right. That's just my opinion. Right.
Well, it's what you're used to. Like, I grew up in Calgary.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, the population was 700,000, and I thought that was as big as Calgary should get. The city had everything. You could get places. Rush hour was virtually non-existent. Since that time, living here has just been more congested. So I actually like medium to small towns and cities. So for me, Vancouver is too big, Toronto's too big, Calgary's too big. So Kelowna would be perfect. Parksville is tiny. The only downside is sometimes you got to go to Nanaimo or Comox to find what you need.
Yes.
But I do like the fact that I could 5-minute walk down to the beach.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Uh, no rush hour. I really like that lifestyle.
So if I had a dream place to live, if it was there's one place in the United States I would live in a heartbeat if I ever had the chance, and that was San Diego. I loved
I
San
love
Diego.
um, the, I love it for the weather.
That's part of why I love it. That's
Uh,
part.
I was there for World Fantasy Convention.
Mhm.
So this is early November.
Okay.
It's gorgeous out. The hospitality was outdoors. It was just awesome. On the Sunday night, the convention had ended. We're walking past a indoor-outdoor bar, and some friends are at a table. We talk to them. We go to our room. We sleep. We get up to go to the airport fairly early Monday morning. We're flying on to Mexico. Um, we walk past this indoor-outdoor bar, and our friends are still there at the table. The last call, they had stocked up on drinks, and they sat there all night talking because it was gorgeous out
Oh yeah.
overnight in the winter.
No. So for me, I went to the San Diego Comic Con, right? I love it, and everybody should go to that once. It is a spectacle. It's like as a vendor, I'd hate it, but as a convention goer, it is amazing. You just see the whole thing, and you're just like, wow, like it's an incredible experience. But what I really loved about San Diego was, okay, I woke up, went to bed and breakfast, and literally, so my little pieces of heaven, like literally next door for my breakfast was a comic book shop, and I was a block from the beach.
Yeah.
It was just it's incredibly cool. I love the train systems. It reminded me of C train in Calgary. I love the fact that you can get everywhere there. It's relaxed for like for big cities, relatively relaxed, and just like this feels really cool.
But here's the important thing. That was summer or late spring.
Okay.
What Comic Con, and I was there in November. We
Yes.
had the same weather.
Yes, exactly. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's peaceful. I couldn't live in LA. Like LA would kill me. Like LA would kill me.
Again, too big. I've been
Yeah,
there.
no, it's too big.
Driving forever to go anywhere.
Well, it's too big, and it's completely like LA to me is a bunch of little cities linked together by their highway system. It's not really a city in the same sense that Detroit's a city or San Diego's a city. It's really this giant sprawl of stuff with the road to connect them.
No,
Right?
Toronto's the same way.
Oh yeah.
It's a bunch of cities. And the problem there, I'm over in Toronto at Rob Sawyer's house. And he says, I'm going to call my editor and invite her over for dinner. Calls his editor, and she goes, I'd love to, but it's $120 fare to go from my house to yours. And we arranged something, but but it's like it's too big. It was a long ride. I can't remember how long to go and get her. It was almost 2 hours.
Yeah, because the other problem with Toronto, this is the big problem with Toronto, is you essentially only have one way to go east to west. Like you have the 407 if you're in the north, but if you're most rest of the city, it's the 401. And 401 is a ginormous like thing, but it takes, depending on the time of day you're at there, it takes a couple hours to get across the city. And the Gardiner isn't like enough. They actually need another east to west highway, but the problem in Toronto is at this point, where do you build it? Like it's like what you see is what you get. So
I worked in Toronto for a week. I was out there on a project for a week, and I spent most of my time driving.
Yeah.
From one location to another, because we were setting up software at multiple locations, and I would have to drive back and forth to different locations.
Oh God.
Driving. It was insane. I did try to drive down to Niagara Falls because I was kind of on call for a day after we'd done everything. So I was kind of on call. So I thought, I'm gonna speed down to Niagara Falls, and I can answer any questions over the phone, so that'd be fine. I got halfway there, and one of the locations said they had a problem that required me to be on site, so I had to drive all the way back. Got there, and there was no problem. So that was my aborted Niagara Falls trip. One of the Galloway novels takes place there, and I kind of doing my research kind of reminisced about, gee, I could have seen this and I could have seen that and I could have experienced this.
Yeah, I'll make a bet. Once you got out of Toronto, the ride was easy. Like the ride was super easy once you got out of Toronto. You're like, yes.
Well, that was how I wrote it, because Peter Galloway drives from Toronto to Niagara Falls, and he actually comments on the experience.
Yeah.
The 401, going south of the lake, and then driving around Niagara Falls. He comments repeatedly about Niagara Falls is a lot easier to get around than Toronto or Calgary.
Yes. No, it's super. Like once you leave, like Toronto's a very special place. But yeah, it's like, yeah, like when I was living there, like Toronto has a great transit system too. Like Vancouver's is the only one that I've been on that's better than theirs. That's one thing I admired about Vancouver is you can get anywhere in that city, no matter how big as it is, really quickly on transit.
Yeah.
But in Toronto, you can't, because of just the nature of how the roads are built. The system's great, but the straight infrastructure they're working with, not so much. It's just like they didn't think about that stuff. Where it's Vancouver, they did, and at
Vancouver, they're trapped.
Yeah,
they're not as sprawled as Toronto is because they got nowhere to go.
Yeah. But they are more. But yeah, it was an incredibly efficient system in comparison. So
there are things I love about Vancouver. I love Granville Island.
Yes.
I like the layout of downtown. There's they have a lot of nice shops and restaurants that are, they're very much coastal restaurants, which we don't have in Calgary. So I did enjoy going out for meals in different places there as well.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing I miss about Vancouver is downtown Vancouver, because it's such a it was such an interesting place, because one, you'd see how the homeless population, and they're everywhere, and it's such an interesting. They were almost like characters in a city, like they were as much a part of that street as the streets themselves, and it was an interesting dichotomy. But the other part about Vancouver that was really interesting is I would always go down to the ocean, or right down right near right. You could always go there, and it's odd. Like this is where I miss Vancouver most of it. I can walk around the river in Detroit, like the Riverside Drive. I'm not that far away from it. But when I look at the Detroit River, and I realized that like less than a year ago I was walking along the ocean. It's like you don't look at the river the same way anymore. It's like it's still impressive, right? But it's not the same. You're like, wow, I had a pretty place I was at, and like I said, me personally, I can't wait to start traveling again next year. I still have a little bit of, I have lots of places to go and people to see is kind of how I look at it. So, that all said, one last question, and I think we can wrap this bad boy up. You've done, I think at this point, more indie novels than traditionally published novels. Do you see yourself? Yeah. And it sounds like you are a hybrid author, but you're leaning more towards an indie bent than say a more traditional bent at this point.
No, that's just a fluke.
That's just a fluke. That's just a fluke.
It's just a fluke. The Galloway series, I had originally planned to market it to a publishing house, but I don't like the pricing on the books. Publishing houses. I don't know what the reasoning is, but they're putting $15 price tags on ebooks. They're putting $30 price tags on print books now. I'm not happy with as an indie author, you can sell your product at a much lower price point than your major publisher can. And I didn't see the point with going with a small press with the crime series because they don't really do much in the way of promotion. Anyway, they don't have a lot of added value. You know, if you don't go with a big house for crime fiction, you're not going to get it in the stores anyway. And so, as a last minute decision, I decided to publish it myself because series authors are doing very, very well as independents. They are doing great. And I thought, I understand it's a new market. Nobody knows who I am as far as crime readers go. But I'm not in a hurry either. I do not need to sell a book today and get lots of sales on that book today. I believe in the best marketing is to write another book, and your books will be discovered over time, and then your readership will build. So I decided to go that route with those novels. The American version, I have an agent in the U.S. waiting to look at it. When I get to it, I told him it was going to be a while because I have other things I need to do right now. But they will see it when it's ready. So I am planning on going that route with that at this point, anyway. My Canadian publisher, Tyche, for speculative fiction, are a small press, but they are very, very good. Mm-hmm. They are not overpricing their products. They offer really good contracts, win-win for everybody in their contracts. And so I'm happy to work with them on my speculative fiction. I cannot recommend them enough. They're selective in what they publish, good. If you are an author writing speculative fiction, try and submit your work to them. They are not always open for submissions because they do have a large number of authors they work with already because they are so good. And I do have a new series with them now. So I've got more books coming out through them. I do think I can self-publish faster than they can traditionally publish. So I will probably stay ahead on the self-published side for a while.
Okay. So there. I'll ask it this way. Like for me personally, I look at it like this now. Like I have no problem working with a small press, but at this point, considering the platform I've built for myself, what I look for now is what can you offer me?
Yes, well, that's what you always have to do.
Yeah.
You have to look at every publisher individually.
Yeah.
And go, if I sign with you, what can you offer me? And if they've got nothing to offer, then there's no point signing.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've hit a point where I do have a bit of a name, and it's like, and honestly, I do agree with you. Like writing more books is the best marketing. My backlist sold more the moment I announced I did a pre-release for my last book, and it's going to happen too when I know the next book when I put it on for pre-order. All my books are going to sell again. When I make a sequel, and I think this is where I'm going to start seeing some real dividends, is when I do it for all my series. When I do an actual sequel to one of them, that's when I think I'm going to start seeing gains in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like I say, right now, in various genres, authors writing series are doing quite well as independents.
Yeah.
Because the thing with standalone novels is you have to market each and every one of them to a new market. Okay. My Much Ado About Macbeth appeals to an entirely different market than My Day of the Demon does. But if you're writing a series, anyone who enjoys book one is going to buy book two, is going to buy book three, is going to buy book four. You don't have to go and find new readers.
No.
You want to, but again, you've got some built-in readers because they've already enjoyed the first book in that series. They know what to expect.
Well, yeah, and it's also just like I said, what I've noticed is it's staying power. Like the more I release, the more people notice I'm doing stuff. And my backlist goes and that's where the money is with most authors. It's their backlist. It's not necessarily their initial sales. It's the fact that, okay, I have 5 books. So when I get to 6, all like the other 5 are going to make me more money. And when I get to 7, the other 6, it just slowly just builds up a nice passive stream for you. And that's what I found. Like, that's the business I've noticed with it for me. I don't know. Like I imagine it's similar with you as well. Like you just like everything you do just builds more and more and more, and suddenly people know you're out there. And then yeah,
Well, this is just it. You do a new book, someone reads it and likes it, they look at your backlist. They go, I enjoyed this book. What else has this author written? And they go, oh, that title appeals to me. I'm going to go read that title too. So yeah, write more. um, there's kind of a debate going on whether you should write more the same or more different, because uh, most readers read broadly. They will. If a lot of people read science fiction and read fantasy and read horror, so I always say write what you want to write. Don't worry about the market. Don't worry about should I write another book in this style or in that style. Write what you want to write. That's the nice thing about being an author is you get to pick your projects.
yes you do. I follow one simple rule with me. What's going to be fun to do? That's it. What sounds like fun? I mean, it might not be the most business sound thing at all, but I never want to resent what I do. That's actually what I ultimately choose. It's like I don't ever want to resent it. So let's just have fun.
Creative people aren't in it for the money.
Yeah.
Okay, but we got to pay the bills, got to put food on the table. But if we were all writing for money, we'd be writing erotica.
That's right.
So, you write what you want to write. You write what makes you feel good.
Yes, exactly. Well, Randy, it's great to catch up with you, man. It really was great. So why don't we do what we always do when we get to the end? Why don't you plug your stuff? However, like your newest, I guess your newest release coming up December 15th is the big one, and how people can find you.
Yes, well, I have a very complicated website called randymccharles.com. Should be easy to find, and it's not complicated at all. It's very simply laid out. It's got all my publications on there. It's actually got all my interviews, including my several interviews with Joshua. This one will be going up there in the near future. Check out what I've got. My most recent publications are the Peter Galloway crime series, which is a Canadian private eye with quirks, fair amount of humor in it. I like all my books to make the reader read and cry, laugh and cry. I try to go for the range of emotions. They're all set in Canadian settings, including Mazatlan, which has a large Canadian population. Also, the first book of my new series from Taiki is coming out on December 15th. It's available for pre-order right now. But it's a Connecticut Gumshoe and King Arthur's Court, which is a mashup of the Connecticut Yankee, King Arthur's Court, and the Maltese Falcon.
Nice.
This series is each book is a mashup of a Bogart film and some medieval setting. So I can't talk about book 2 yet because the publisher hasn't rejected it yet. They may reject it. Who knows? So I don't want to talk about it until I actually get it accepted.
You see it in print. Yeah, I get that.
But this is also the first book in the new series. And essentially, what I've written is the anti-Sam Spade. I've got a gumshoe who I'm trying to make it feel like Sam Spade. That hey, this is Sam Spade. But if you look closer, he's actually the opposite of Sam Spade. And so he gets into all sorts of misadventures. And in this first book, King Arthur's Court, he lives the original story of the Maltese Falcon, which is later a lot of ethereal cleanup is done to make it more palatable to the real world. But essentially, he lives out the original story of Maltese Falcon. And then he also lives out some more traditional King Arthur tales in that first book. Yeah, so it's a fun read, and it's available soon. But to tide you over, um, I really enjoyed writing the series and writing more. Each book is a standalone, but I recommend reading them in order because of the character development from book to book. His partner is an RCMP officer, Angela Ford. Book 8, I believe, is going to be from her point of view. The rest of the books are all single point of view from Peter Galloway. But I think I'm going to put Peter Galloway in the hospital in book 8. And I'm going to have Angela Ford out there with somebody else trying to find out who put him in the hospital. Yeah. Crime Adventures, Canadian content. Check out my website for older material there as well. I've got a lot. Something might appeal to you.
All right.
RandyMcCharles.com.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. Thanks for watching. If you want to support the podcast, you can either subscribe here on my Twitch or you can subscribe on my YouTube channel, Joshua Pantelaretsco. Check out my book, Style Zero and The Cloud Diver, available now, coming soon, live out Christmas Day. And beyond that, guys, stay inspired. Tomorrow is my drink and draw. I want to thank Randy for coming on board. And hey, man, it's a pleasure having you. You're welcome back anytime. So, yeah, just let me know when and if you want to do it again, man.
Well, maybe in the spring sometime.
That'd be good. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, we'll see how your schedule is.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Anyways, guys, you have yourself a good day. Stay inspired and keep doing your thing. All right.
Thank you for having me, Josh.